o'clock on a Tuesday morning in Geneva. A young man in a bespoke suit, no logos, just perfect tailoring, sits in a leather chair that costs more than most people's cars. Across from him sits an older man. He is not a celebrity. He is not on the Forbes list. If you passed him on the street, you would mistake him for a retired geography teacher or a mid-level bureaucrat. But the older man holds a pen that can redirect the GDP of a small nation. The young man is pitching an investment. It is flashy. It is crypto, or perhaps a tech startup that promises to disrupt an entire industry. He speaks with passion. He talks about disruption and scaling and market dominance. The older man listens. He doesn't blink. He doesn't smile. He has seen this movie 20 times before. This could multiply our capital 10 times over in 3 years, the young man says, leaning forward breathless. It is a revolution. Silence fills the room. It hangs there, heavy for 10 long seconds. Finally, the older man closes the folder. He doesn't look at the proposal. He looks at the young man. Your grandfather, the old man says softly, did not spend 50 years building this fortress just so you could light a firework on the roof to get people to look at you. The old man is not just being difficult. He is terrified. He is terrified because he knows the math that haunts every family office in the world. 90%. That is the failure rate. Economists call it the Dynasty Trap. The data shows that 70% of wealthy families lose their fortune by the second generation, and 90% lose it entirely by the third. History is littered with the corpses of fortunes that were supposed to last forever. The Vanderbilts were once the richest family on earth. Cornelius Vanderbilt built an empire of railroads and shipping. But within 50 years of his death, when 120 of his descendants gathered for a family reunion, not a single one of them was a millionaire. They built palaces that are now museums. They threw parties that cost the equivalent of $50 million. They fell into every single trap we are about to discuss. So how do the 10% survive? How do the Rothschilds, the Waltons, and the invisible European dynasties keep their money for centuries? They survive because they operate on a completely different psychological operating system. They have identified the 4 specific traps that destroy wealth, and they have built a fortress to withstand. Today we are going to dissect those 4 traps. We are going to hand you the blueprint of the 10% who survive. Whether you have $10 or 10 million, these are the rules of the game you didn't know you were playing. Trap number 1, the visibility trap. We live in an era of noise. We are told that attention is the new currency. If you aren't seen, you don't exist. When a person suddenly comes into money, a lottery winner, a tech IPO, a sports contract, their first psychological impulse is validation. They have spent their lives being ignored. Now they have the resources to force the world to acknowledge them. They are shouting to the world, look at me, I am no longer poor. And be honest with yourself. If someone handed you $50 million tomorrow, would you really say no to the recognition? The desire to show off is natural, but in the world of dynasty, it is fake. The visible rich are targets. When the revolution comes, when the mob gets angry, or when the government needs a scapegoat to tax into oblivion, they don't go after the man they don't know exists. They go after the man in the gilded carriage. New money buys a bright yellow Ferrari because they want to be seen. Old money buys a dark blue armoured Mercedes because they want to be safe. To escape the visibility trap, the surviving dynasties utilize what intelligence circles call the grey man theory. The grey man is the person you don't remember seeing. He walks into a room and your eyes slide right past him. He is average height, average build, wearing clothes that are high quality but utterly forgettable. He blends into the texture of the background. Consider the Walton family. They own Walmart. They have more wealth than the bottom 40% of the American population combined. But when was the last time you saw a Walton on TMZ? When was the last time you saw one of them posting a day in the life video on TikTok? You haven't, because they understand that fame is a liability. Fame attracts lawsuits. Fame attracts kidnappers. Fame attracts regulators. Old money treats their net worth like a state secret. In fact, many heirs are raised without knowing how much their family actually has. There is a famous account of a Rockefeller child who only realized his family was wealthy when he read about it in an encyclopedia at school. And think about the discipline that requires to have the world at your fingertips and to choose to look boring. This is the first lesson. Real power is not about being the face on the coin. It is about being the metal the coin is made of. But even if you stay invisible, you are not safe because the second trap is waiting for you. Trap number 2, the time trap. Most of the 90% who lose everything do so because they cannot perceive time correct. The human brain is wired for short-term survival. We worry about paying rent next month. Corporate CEOs worry about the stock price next quarter. The day trader worries about the closing bell. This is linear thinking. It is how you get rich, but it is not how you stay rich. To escape the time trap, you must adopt cathedral thinking. The term comes from the medieval stonemasons who built the great cathedrals of Europe. The master mason who laid the foundation knew with absolute certainty that he would not live to see the spire. He was pouring his life's work into a structure that would only be finished by his grandchildren. That was the contract. You build for ghosts. This shifts the psychology of risk entirely. For saying, if you are trying to get rich in one lifetime, you have to take massive risks. You have to gamble. You have to leverage everything to hit a home run. But if your goal is to ensure that your great-great-grandchildren never have to work, your strategy changes. You stop trying to multiply your money by 10 and you start trying to ensure it never goes to 0. This is why old old money invests in things that seem incredibly boring to the modern hustle culture. They invest in land, in forests, in water rights, in boring industrial components. There is a saying in these circles: new money invests in what is changing. Old money invests in what stays the same. People will always need to drink water. They will always need wood to build houses. They will always need insurance. This long-term view creates a strange relationship with crisis. When you are thinking about centuries, a decade-long recession is just noise. You can't panic sell what you are not planning to sell for 50 years. This patience is why they survive market crashes that wipe out everyone else. When the new rich are panic selling their crypto and their leveraged real estate to cover their debts, old money is quietly buying. They have the cash reserves to wait out the storm. They are the crocodiles of the economic ecosystem. They can slow their metabolism down, sit perfectly still in the muddy water for years, and wait for the prey to come to them. But here is the problem. You can build a fortress, and you can plan for 100 years, but eventually you have to hand the keys to someone else. And that brings us to the deadliest trap of all. Trap number 3, the access trap. How do you stop the grandson from spending the grandfather's fortune? The first generation makes it. They have the hunger, the grit, the scars of poverty. The second generation maintains it. They saw the struggle. But the third generation, they are born in the palace. They have never been hungry. They have no concept of cost. To them, the money is not a tool. It is a magic tap that never runs dry. This is where the 90% fail. They give their children access. To survive this, the 10% invented a psychological mechanism that is colder than any prison cell. It is called the trust. To the outsider, a trust looks like a boring financial document, but psychologically, it is a behavior modification device. Let's go back to that room in Geneva. The young heir isn't just asking for money, he's asking for permission. In a true dynasty, the heir does not own the money. The trust owns the money. The heir is merely a beneficiary, and standing between the heir and the money is the trustee. The trustee is usually a humorless lawyer, corporate institution, or that old man in the leather chair. Their job is not to make the heir happy. Their job is to protect capital from the heir. Imagine growing up knowing that you are worth billions. The world thinks you can buy anything, but in reality, you have to ask a stranger for permission to buy a house. You have to submit a business plan to get capital for a startup. You have to prove you are sober, employed, and responsible before the tap opens even a millimeter. Meaning, this creates a profound psychological shift. The wealth does not belong to you. You belong to the wealth. You are not the owner. You are the steward. You are a temporary caretaker of a flame that must be passed to the next generation, brighter than you found it. This stewardship model crushes the ego, and that is exactly the point. Takeshi, the trustee in our opening scene, asked 3 questions before rejecting the deal. What is the downside protect? What is the 50-year outlook? Does this expose the family name to scandal? Most say, notice he didn't ask, how much will we make? The young heir, infected by the virus of modern hustle culture, thinks the goal is growth. The trustee knows the goal is preservation. The answer is no, the trustee said. Not maybe, no. This rejection is not cruelty. It is the immune system of the dynasty attacking a pathogen. The pathogen is risk. The pathogen is the heir's unearned confidence. But this system comes with a heavy price tag, and this leads us to the final, most subtle trap. Trap number 4, the entitlement trap. This 4th trap doesn't destroy the money directly. It destroys the person who is supposed to protect it. And when the person breaks, the money eventually follows. We often fantasize about the freedom of unlimited wealth, but we rarely consider the burden, the shadow of the ancestor. If you are a self-made man, everything you achieve is yours. You built it, you own the victory. But if you are a Rockefeller or a Rothschild, nothing you do will ever be as great as what the founder did. If you succeed, people say, well, of course he had a head start. If you fail, they say, what a waste. You are trapped in a no-win scenario. This leads to a massive identity crisis. The heirs feel like imposters in their own lives. And insecure heirs are dangerous heirs. They gamble to prove their worth. They fund vanity projects. They destroy the fortune trying to make a name for themselves. So how do the survivors handle it? They create a culture of excellence without flair. The smart dynasties push their children into fields where money cannot buy success. You cannot buy a black belt in jiu-jitsu. You cannot buy the ability to play a Rachmaninoff concerto. You cannot buy fluency in Mandarin Chinese. And what? By forcing the heirs to master difficult, objective skills, they try to build the self-esteem that the unearned money erodes. They also protect this identity through the language of exclusion. You have probably noticed that the ultra-wealthy speak differently. It is not just an accent. It is a code. They use specific words, specific manners. This is not just snobbery. It is a discipline. It acts as a filter. It keeps the social climbers, the hustlers, and the new money chaos at bay. It creates a sealed circle where everyone understands the rule. When everyone in the room has a trust fund, nobody is trying to steal yours. When everyone has a famous last name, nobody cares about yours. This brings us to the final synthesis of these 4 traps. When you combine invisibility, cathedral thinking, the trust and discipline, you stop being a competitor. You become the environment itself. There is a concept in forestry. You have the underbrush, the fast-growing weeds and saplings that fight for every scrap of sunlight. They grow fast, they die fast. This is the consumer economy. This is the day trader. This is the influencer. Then you have the oak trees. They grow slowly. Their roots go deep, tapping into aquifers that the surface plants don't even know exist. Their canopy blocks the sun, controlling what can grow beneath them. Old money is the oak. They don't compete with the underbrush. They simply define the environment in which the underbrush lives. They fund the universities that teach the economists. They sit on the boards of the museums that define culture. They endow the hospital. They are not playing a game. They built the board. So let's return to the young man in Geneva. He walks out of the office. He is angry. He feels restricted. He feels like the old man doesn't understand the modern world. But 10 years later, when the crypto market has crashed and the revolutionary tech startup has gone bankrupt, he will still be wealthy. He will be wealthy because the old man said no. He will be sitting in that same leather chair, perhaps holding the pen himself now, listening to his own son picture, sure thing, and he will understand. He will understand that he is not the main character of the story. He is a chapter. His job is not to be interesting. His job is not to be famous. His job is to not break the chain. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have a trust fund. I don't have a castle in Europe. What does this have to do with me? It has everything to do with you, because the 90% failure rate applies to everyone. You see lottery winners go broke in 3 years. You see NFL stars bankrupt 5 years after retirement. You see people who make $200,000 a year living paycheck to paycheck. They fall into the visibility trap, buying things to impress people they don't like. They fall into the time trap, sacrificing tomorrow's security for today's pleasure. They fall into the access trap, having no barriers between their interests and their wallets. You don't need $1 billion to apply cathedral thinking. You don't need a team of lawyers to create your own trust rules for your spending. You don't need to be a Rockefeller to practice excellence without flack. The question is not whether you have the money. The question is whether you have the mind. We all say we want generational wealth. It is the buzzword of our time. We hustle, we grind, we invest, chasing that dream of freedom. But if you actually achieved it, if you were handed the keys to the kingdom tomorrow, would you have the strength to disappear? Could you delete Instagram? Could you sell the flashy car? Could you walk into a room and be treated like nobody, knowing you could buy everyone there? Could you accept that your life is no longer about you, but about a great-great-grandchild you will never meet? Most people want the money. Very few want discipline. The silence is not empty. The silence is heavy. And if you want to carry the torch, you must first learn to stand in the dark.